There's so much more to life than we can perceive with our senses and know with our reason. It's easy to get lost in what we think is the truth simply because we're experiencing it. And yet, life takes on the greatest meaning when we come to realize that there is so much more than what appears. Perhaps that's what true spirituality is after all. It's coming to deeply know that there is a perceiver behind everything we perceive. There's a knower behind everything we know. That the only true reality is that which endures forever. Basically, it's seeing life from the soul's perspective and ultimately coming to recognize our oneness with all. In essence, that's the aim of all spiritual growth or development. True transformation is moving from a limited here and now view of all that is to a view that helps us in all situations and circumstances to say, I am more than this. In the previous modules, we looked at the fears and beliefs we have around aging and learned some techniques to address these. Then we learned about doing a life review. And the purpose of a life review is to complete anything from our past that might need forgiveness and reconciliation, as well as to find the gems in our past that are signposts of where there is still life to be lived more fully. We're now about to take a look at the aging process itself and how it can support us on this spiritual journey. As I continue to age and work more and more with people from midlife and beyond, I've noticed that when approached consciously, the aging process itself can truly foster spiritual transformation. In this module, I invite you to explore your own experience and what you're learning, and I hope you'll share your ideas with us on the Conscious Aging Facebook page. That's www.facebook.com/conscious aging. That's all one word. With a shift in attitude, we can discover that in life's second half or fourth quarter, the very experiences we have during the process of aging itself are meant to be a call and an opportunity for spiritual growth. The changes we experience as we age can become a source of discouragement and complaint, or we can use them as a source of spiritual inspiration and even transformation. To age consciously rather than deny what is happening, we need to develop spiritual resources to adapt and begin to look at everything we experience as a gift, inviting us to take a deeper look at what life is calling us to become. One of our basic needs in life is to find meaning and purpose. And like the dragonfly that doesn't get its true colors until it reaches maturity, sometimes it's only when we have lived a full life and become more conscious that our true soul purpose and our life's deepest meaning begin to appear. Many of us, when younger, confused our work with our purpose, although for some they may have overlapped. Our purpose is not necessarily the way we make money in this world. It is more about the reason our souls decided to incarnate. It takes a bit of living to discover what that is for most of us. So, what is your purpose in life? The renowned spiritual teacher Ram Dass, born Richard Alpert in 1931, an American contemporary spiritual teacher and the author of the seminal 1971 book, Be Here Now, and the more recent work, Still Here, Embracing Aging, Changing, and Dying, suggests that the one purpose is to learn to grow old well. He asserts that some of his greatest growth has taken place since he had a stroke at age 65. I realized that that stroke was grace. I had been superficial and arrogant, and the stroke helped me to be humble. I'd gotten power from helping people, and now I need help for everything. That was the grace. The stroke happened to the ego, and when I could witness the pain, my life got better. Fortunately, most of us don't have to go through something as dramatic as a stroke to learn spiritual lessons. For example, we can learn mindfulness as we find our bodies slowing down, and as friends, family, and even the media caution us more and more about being alert, lest we become one of the statistics of people who have had a fall. Consciousness, after all, is all about being alert, and is one of the most important ways of keeping ourselves balanced. Being conscious is synonymous with living in the present. All spiritual teachings tell us that the most important lesson is to be in the now, to live in the moment, and to learn to accept whatever is, rather than worrying about what could be or was. So much of the pain of the aging process is because we are holding on to who we were, rather than embracing who we are at the moment. A sign of spiritual maturity comes when we don't split everything up according to what we like and what we don't like, what we label as good or bad. All spiritual teachers point the way to learning how to leave the moment open, to let it be what it is in itself, and let it speak to you. We miss an opportunity for transformation by tightly holding on to who we were. Besides, the real spiritual truth is that we were never really who we thought we were anyway. So what are we holding on to? Perhaps that's some of the gift of memory loss as we age. We have to live more in the moment. Now that we can't remember details so well, it's also easier to allow ourselves to forgive and forget and let our hearts expand. Forgetting can actually become an art form when we allow it. I believe that when our memories fail us, it's a reminder to seek out what is really important. And I've adopted a belief that if I can't remember it, it can't be that important. It's actually very freeing. There are lots of things that are just not worth remembering. Somehow I think our souls know that and allow us to forget. We learn the art of letting go, or what spiritual teachers call surrender. This can happen, for example, as we let go of roles, perhaps redefining our role as parents as we experience an empty nest, or releasing our work identity as we retire or retread. Thomas Merton, Trappist monk, writer, and mystic, said, "The way we have structured our lives, we spend our whole life climbing up the ladder of supposed success, and when we get to the top of the ladder, we realize it's leaning against the wrong wall, and there is nothing at the top." As we experience aging, we have to let go of all the false agendas, unreal goals, and passing self-images. It's all about letting go. The spiritual life is more about unlearning than learning. As an adult educator, I've studied various age stage theories and in the past had at least an intellectual understanding of the lessons to be learned and the things to be achieved at each age and level of life. And during our earlier years, life is all about doing, achieving, accumulating, and we find as we age that we long to live a simpler, more clutter-free life. As we age, acquiring no longer seems as important. In fact, most people I know are shedding and releasing and downsizing or right-sizing. Simplification becomes more attractive, and a simple, more clutter-free life becomes more and more desirable. We're at a point in our lives when we set new priorities and explore what is really important to us. We're learning to move from an outer focus to an inner focus, and from a mind control orientation to a soul-centered approach to life. We stop asking, "What do I want?" and we begin to ask, "What does my soul want here?" As we age, we can come to identify more and more with our soul than with our former roles. The aging process itself demands that we move from the acquiring, doing, achieving, manifesting, solidifying identity stage to learning to let go and to be. So as we age, we learn to spend more time being and less time becoming prolific and productive. Spirituality teaches us that life is about being and not about doing. And one of the ways we learn that is by not being able to do the things we did in the past. Most of the time, we did things because of the feeling that it brought us. So as we age, we can look at incomplete goals or things that we once enjoyed and no longer do and ask, what feeling was I looking for in this experience? Usually, we can find something or some way to achieve that same feeling from a different experience that's still available to us. All through our spiritual lives, we're taught about surrender and letting go. And when we begin to experience life as being taken away from us or slipping away, we can either panic and rebel or deeply allow what is happening to happen. Of course, that doesn't mean being passive about our health or about keeping intimate relationships alive. But it does mean that we get to recognize the impermanence of all that we have on this planet Earth while coming to know and experience that life is truly eternal. When we get to glimpse that truth, our focus changes and we set different priorities. We realize that for certain we cannot take it with us when the it is material possessions. And while we treasure and appreciate them for what they are, we no longer feel attached. That's ultimate spiritual growth and true freedom. I recently listened and watched a video of Esther Hicks, the woman who speaks in the name of Abraham, which is best described as an extension of source energy into our world. She was talking about the transition of her husband and soulmate, Jerry. She made a clear distinction that while Esther missed Jerry's physical presence, she was even more clear that the veil between this world and the eternal world became even thinner with his passing. One of the jobs of the aging process, if you will, is to come face to face with the experience we call death, and to recognize that it is a continuation of our essence, which we know of as life. That's pretty powerful stuff when we get it. So much of our youth is lived in denial that this life is only temporary. As we age, we become aware of what is permanent and therefore discover that nothing can ever be truly lost. The spiritual journey is about going deeper and deeper to find that which does not change. The one thing we can be certain of as we age is faster change, and in many instances, change is seen as synonymous with loss. The aging process itself is often viewed as a time of grief and loss. Besides letting go of old identities and abilities, it's often experiencing more and more deaths of loved ones. It can be a time of declining or loss of health. At the very least, it is loss of things that are perceived of as youthful beauty, such as hair color or wrinkles or even hair itself. Dr. Wayne Dyer once said, "To be attached to your physical appearance is to ensure a lifetime of suffering as you watch your form go through the natural motions that begin the moment of your conception." Certainly when we watch our parents and sometimes even our friends and children die, we learn of this life's impermanence. Our grief is almost always about what could have been. Learning to grieve can be a true source of spiritual growth when viewed from this perspective. Many of my clients have told me that they no longer fear death, and that's a great thing. But what they fear is the process of dying. None of us like to suffer, and spiritually speaking, we never have to. I'm reminded of what an Indian guru once taught me while doing yoga. We held some pretty challenging postures for quite a long time, or at least it seemed quite long to me. He said to us, Change the label of pain to sensation. I'll never forget those words. I use them frequently when my body decides to exhibit less than pleasant moments. Truly, suffering only comes when we push away and resist whatever we are experiencing. It is not what is happening that causes suffering, but what we are telling ourselves about what is happening. It's never going to be better. I can't go on like this, or other such statements. Someone recently heard that I had a shoulder pain and said, "You must be struggling." I couldn't help but laugh as I realized that so many people see pain as something to struggle or fuss about, rather than simply our body's signal that it wants us to come back to balance. Our bodies are amazing that way. The problem we have with them getting older is an old spiritual problem of identification. Ask any Eastern spiritual teacher and he or she will say, "I am not my body." You've probably heard that and maybe even intellectually agreed with it. But when you start to experience what you label as decline of the body, it's essential to remember that you are more than that. What a gift our bodies give us when we're ready to really hear the truth. Maybe the pain that comes with the breakdown of bodily process is especially tough on us as we age, because we probably aren't going to physically heal from some of these changes. There are signs, reminders once again, that we are so much more than our bodies. And the more we identify with the body, the more pain we'll experience. I have also found that having health issues as I age has really been an opportunity to help me transform. These experiences have challenged my beliefs about who I am and why I came here in the first place. They've also taught me another radically important spiritual lesson, and that's the recognition that all of life is about interdependence rather than independence. I've had times where I need help, something I never knew how to ask for or even sometimes believed I deserved. I was here to help others, and in my serving, I often neglected the truth that others are served when I allow them to support me. I read recently that even the Buddha was awakened when he came face to face with an elderly sick person and with a corpse. If it hadn't been for them, who knows what his life would have been. We can all be gifts to help others awaken. Another part of awakening to our fullness is learning to live with the opposites that life presents. True maturity is about learning to live with the questions. An ultimate spiritual understanding leads us to a place of non-duality, and living with questions is a way of practicing that life is not either or, but often both and. I recently read an article from the Diocese of Washington that talked about people's experiences of aging. And one person in particular said, "As I age, I am less physically able to accomplish things I once did on my own. I now fear heights and I can't climb tall ladders. I have a hard time lifting heavy things without injury. But all this has made me more humble and more appreciative of the help that others can give. Gratitude and a proper sense of interdependence are a gift I have discovered with age. In the gift of age, God has helped me be more grateful and connected to others. We are all one. We were often taught that it's better to give than to receive, but the truth is that giving and receiving are one. As we learn to ask for the help we need, we truly learn the meaning of interdependence. Needing help can also help us become more understanding of the struggles of others. I don't know about you, but when I was young, I was impatient. There was little I couldn't do, or at least thought I couldn't do. But now, experiencing more of my limits brings me both compassion and understanding. And I think I'm learning patience as well. A while ago, I had a hip replacement, followed by a broken femur, an infection, and blood clots, and it left me flat on my back for almost 3 months. And during my time of rehab and healing, I learned to be grateful for the smallest things and for the care that others offered me in so many ways. I became more humble and appreciative of all people who are ill or disabled, who would never discover and recover as I did. There are so many unexpected gifts hidden in situations like this. The most important lesson I received was the message I got while lying immobile. There is nowhere to go and nothing to do. Well, that was literally true then. It's become my mantra every day since, especially when I find myself feeling overwhelmed or rushed or berating myself for not meeting a deadline or achieving the goal. Those words are worth pondering. There is nowhere to go and nothing to do. I believe that's what true enlightenment is all about. It's a gift of grace. I've even learned to be more grateful for the gift of a brief rest. Naps are a great way to remind myself there's nowhere to go and nothing to do. What are some of the other things that people fear about aging? And what are the lessons that can be learned from the aging process? For example, when you fear running out of money, you can ask yourself, what is true wealth and true abundance? You can't take it with you after all. Have you defined yourself by the money you earn or by the things money has allowed you to accumulate? Who are you with or without money? If you're downsizing, leaving a home for assisted living or a nursing home, you can ponder the question, where is my true home? Yes, living on this earth, it's nice to be surrounded by nice things and have the safety and security of a roof over our heads. I visit hospice patients weekly, and one 103-year-old who's living in an assisted living facility often tells me about the homes she once lived in, about the boats on the lake and the beautiful view outside her window, and about the long treks she took just to buy her groceries. And, she said, I loved what I had, but I am so content with where I am now. I don't need those things to be happy. It's enough to remember all the good that has been part of my life. And while it's different today, I still see it as good. She's one of the most conscious and content people I know, and she teaches me to learn to be satisfied with what is, instead of longing for what used to be or can no longer be. What a gift. She also tells me that she loves living alone and is never lonely. I've learned to love my own company, she said. I was quite social in my younger years. I belonged to and ran lots of organizations. But now it's time for me, and I'm enjoying every moment. I am part of all that I have ever been. What wisdom she teaches me. When you experience loneliness, begin to recognize that you can choose to see life as lived alone or all one. When your eyesight gets weaker, rejoice in the new inner vision that can come upon you in the second half of life, and look with great expectation to the even deeper vision as you change from an outer focus to a more inward quest. Learning to live more consciously is all about discovering or rediscovering that the interior life is the real life and can be far richer than any outer experience. Besides, it's lasting. If your hearing begins to diminish, see it as a sign to listen more attentively and to look at others while they speak. This can serve to connect you more deeply to them. And learn to listen to the voice within. You'll be amazed at what you can now hear when you shut out some of the outside noise. Perhaps what we see sometimes as falling apart is just another way of letting go, of releasing our beliefs about ourselves and the things we believe to be true. A main theme of the spiritual classic, the Bhagavad Gita, is the importance of learning to be unattached to the fruits of our labor, of emptying ourselves. I once read that it's about becoming like Teflon instead of Velcro. Nature kindly assists us as we age, for as our minds and our memories dim, it becomes a little easier to release the images we hold about who we think we are. Finally, I'm gradually coming to realize that everything that happens to us in life can be seen as a blessing, even the most devastating reverses. It's all a matter of seeing it with the perspective of compassion and love. Spiritual vision allows us to see life as a treasure worth cherishing, right up to our final breath. So, how are you handling this process?